Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. This is a B2 level vocabulary lesson. Today we're going to be learning about modals of probability and probability adjectives, and by the end of the lesson you should be able to talk about possible future events. Alright, so how do you see things? Optimist, pessimist, or realist? Is the glass half full or half empty? And do you have a similar expression in your language? And we can think about some possible future. What will the 22nd century look like? What will life be like in 100 years? Better, worse, or the same? What do you think? And what will be life like in your city in 100 years? And if you'd like to generate some conversation, you can put your ideas in the comments. So the effects of climate change are already here. Scientists have predicted how the world's climate is changing and will change. For years, we have been warned that we must act now if we are going to save our planet from environmental disaster. But is it already too late? So how do you feel about this statement? And what have you heard about the effects of climate change? And again, you can put your ideas in the comments. Alright, we're going to read the text and then answer the questions. You can pause the video and read on your own, or you can follow along as I read. First, let's take a look at the vocabulary words. Critical means to describe something or someone that is wrong or bad. Disorganized means without a plan. Decisive is to be able to make a plan or a decision quickly. And if someone is reliable, you can believe and trust in that person or thing. So the Paris Climate Agreement was signed in 2015. At the time, many people around the world were critical of their government's disorganized approach to tackling climate change. The Paris Climate Agreement aimed to keep global warming at an acceptable level. The agreement had the support of many countries worldwide, and it appeared to be a decisive step in the fight against climate change. Finally, a reliable control system was in place. And you might not know about the Paris Climate Agreement, but do you know anything your government has done to tackle climate change? Making a commitment. So governments have made promises to keep global warming to an acceptable level. And there are many ways to talk about future probability. And here are some examples. Our government will fight climate change, and we will make changes to ensure the future will be good for everyone. Climate change isn't real. There's no chance that we will change anything. Climate change might be real, but what can we do? It's possible that we won't need to change anything at all, and I'm not sure that there's a problem. We could be worrying about nothing. So below are some ways to express future probability. So if something is certain to happen, 100%, I will go to the party, I will definitely go, I will probably go. So will can never mean 100% probability. And then 50%, we could meet later today, we might meet later today, and we may meet later today. May, might, and could have a similar meaning, but various regions would use them differently. And then more toward the 0%, or not very likely to happen. He probably won't come with us. He definitely won't come with us. He won't come with us. Now read each statement, and do you agree? And then change the statements to reflect your ideas. So, and here are the helps: will definitely, will probably, could, might, may, probably won't, definitely won't, or won't. So I will speak English fluently in 2 years, and so you can change that to say I might speak English fluently in 2 years. I probably won't. Whatever is true for you. And again, if you'd like some feedback, you can put your answers or your changes to the sentences in the comments. Alright, now we're going to read the next part of the article and answer the questions. Once again, you can pause the video and read on your own, or follow along as I read. Again, we'll take a look at the vocabulary words first. If you are reckless, you do something without thinking. Competitive or good, it means as good or better than other things. And irresponsible, it means reckless, careless, or thoughtless. So on June 1st, 2017, in what many critics called a reckless move, Donald Trump announced that the U.S. was going to withdraw from the agreement. He said that he believed that continuing to be part of the commitment would make the U.S. less competitive. Despite ongoing protests by environmental groups, the Trump administration has repeatedly acted in an irresponsible manner. The U.S. is one of the main contributors to greenhouse gases, and this situation looks likely to continue. So how does the author feel about Donald Trump's decision? Well, he disagrees with it. He calls it reckless, irresponsible. And in the final sentence, the author uses an adjective to talk about future probability. And what is that adjective? It is likely to continue. It's very likely. My drawing isn't working here. So likely. Alright, adjectives in future probability. So we're going to take a look at the structure we use with some adjectives to describe future probability. So if we're more on toward the 100%, we would use adjectives like certain or probable. It's certain that he'll do it. It's probably probable that I'll go with you. We're kind of in the 50-50 range. We would say, we would use adjectives like possibly, possible, or likely. It is possible that we will work tomorrow. It is likely that there will be rain tonight. And when we're approaching the 0%, something that's not probable, not likely, unlikely, or doubtful. It's not likely that we will see you. It's unlikely that they will come. It's doubtful that I'll arrive on time. Alright, now we'll read the last part of the article, and you want to find the words that express future probability. Again, some vocabulary. Coal, oil, and natural gas are all fossil fuels, and when we talk about emissions, we mean the discharge that is released after using a fossil fuel. Recent posts suggest that it is unlikely that we will be able to stop global climate change. It now looks certain that we will fail to reduce our fossil fuel emissions to the levels that were set for 2030. In fact, it will probably be difficult to meet these targets by 2050. Scientists predict that global temperatures could easily increase by 3 to 5 degrees by 2100. Exactly how much the temperatures will rise remains uncertain. Sea levels are likely to rise significantly by the end of the century. If this happens, it is certain that low-lying cities such as Miami, Florida will be underwater. So the author is 100% sure about some things and not so sure about other things, and so we did that. We found the examples of future probability. So almost everyone has an opinion on climate change, and we're going to read Maria and Brian's views. Maria believes that it is unlikely that we will be able to solve the problem of climate change. People around the world are more aware of the situation than ever before. It's certain that they will continue to put pressure on their governments to put an end to their reckless use of fossil fuels. She thinks that global temperatures will probably stop rising as a result. Brian is pessimistic. He thinks it's unlikely that we will find a solution to climate change. We have known about the problem for years, but lawmakers are so irresponsible. Even now, when the situation has reached a critical point, they are disorganized. They are not taking decisive action. Brian thinks it's likely that Arctic ice could melt in the next few decades, and if it does, bears are certain to die out. Can we do anything? Do we need to do anything? And do you agree with Brian or Maria? Now, here are two more opinions. We'll read these texts and answer the questions. Again, you can pause the video, read on your own, or you can follow along as I read. Annabelle believes that we probably still have a chance to turn the situation around. Renewable energy sources are more reliable, more widely available, and cheaper than before. People will be more open to switching to renewable energy if the prices are competitive. In his view, sea levels are unlikely to reach a critical point as long as we get the situation under control quickly. Shin is certain that our planet is doomed. People are just too greedy, he says, and as the oceans get warmer, it is likely that all marine life will be under threat. He thinks that coral reefs will probably cease to exist in the next 10 years. He goes on to say, after that, it's just a matter of time. We could still do something about it, but I think it's very unlikely that we will. And here's some questions that you can answer in the comments. What do you know about renewable energy? And then who feels optimistic and who feels pessimistic? Which words and phrases show this? Well, Annabelle is more optimistic because he says we probably still have a chance to turn the situation around. And unlikely to reach a critical point as long as we get the situation under control quickly. But Shin is very pessimistic. He's certain that the planet is doomed. People are too greedy. It's likely that marine life will be under threat. The coral reefs will probably cease to exist, and it's very unlikely that we'll do anything to solve the issue. Now, it's difficult to think things will get better. However, humans have made enormous improvements over hundreds of years. Think of life now and life 100 years ago. In what ways have humans improved? And think about the following. In terms of education, life expectancy, the amount of hours spent working, and wealth. And you could put your ideas about these things, and how they've changed over the last 100 years in the comments. All right, we're going to listen to Gregory as he introduces a topic.
In a recent survey, people were asked, "Do you think the world is getting better or worse?" The results showed that less than 10% of the population believes that the world is improving. While it's true that we face some major challenges, I believe that there are still reasons to be optimistic.
Right. So what question was asked in the survey? So the question was, do you think the world is getting better or worse? What percentage does Gregory mention? 10%. At the end of the introduction, Gregory uses an adjective to describe how he feels. What is the adjective? It's optimistic. And how does this influence what he is going to talk about? Well, it kind of depends on your point of view. If you think he's going to be talking about climate change or education or wealth, life expectancy, some of those things are going to be more positive than others. So it really depends on what the topic is. Now listen to the entire recording and we'll check off what Gregory mentions.
In a recent survey, people were asked, "Do you think the world is getting better or worse?" The results showed that less than 10% of the population believes that the world is improving. While it's true that we face some major challenges, I believe that there are still reasons to be optimistic. To begin with, 100 years ago, the vast majority of people lived in extreme poverty. Despite a huge increase in the world population, these days less than 10% of the world's population faces life in such poor conditions. Comparatively, we are much better off than we used to be. On top of this, life expectancy has increased considerably over the last century. Although it has risen more dramatically in some countries than others, overall there is no doubt people are living longer than they used to. A life expectancy of 80 years is no longer uncommon in developed countries. Advances in technology and healthcare have also contributed to an improvement in people's quality of life. In terms of education, literacy rates have soared in the last 100 years. These days, more than 80% of the world's adult population can read and write, compared to only about 30% in 1920. Students in many countries have more choices than ever before about what to study and how to do it. Contrary to popular belief, statistics show that the number of hours we spend working has fallen steadily over the last century. In the past, many people spent 12 to 16 hours a day at work. Technology has also made a major contribution to the amount of free time we have, even though it may not always feel like it.
Okay, so he mentioned life expectancy, world population, advances in technology and healthcare, literacy rates, and working hours. Alright, so now you can pause the video and see if you can fill in the blanks, and then restart when you're ready to listen and check.
To begin with, 100 years ago, the vast majority of people lived in extreme poverty. Despite a huge increase in the world population, these days less than 10% of the world's population faces life in such poor conditions. Comparatively, we are much better off than we used to be. On top of this, life expectancy has increased considerably over the last century. Although it has risen more dramatically in some countries than others, overall there is no doubt people are living longer than they used to. A life expectancy of 80 years is no longer uncommon in developed countries. Advances in technology and healthcare have also contributed to an improvement in people's quality of life.
Okay, so Gregory uses three of the terms to connect two contrasting ideas. So, which ones? So he uses despite the increase in the population, and then the life conditions. So those are the two things that are contrasting, and then comparatively is comparing how we used to be and how we are now. And then the third one is although. So life expectancy has risen more dramatically in some countries than others. So he's contrasting the life expectancy among countries. So which linking words does he use to add more information that agrees with the previous idea? So on top of this is a linking phrase that gives more information about how life has improved. And then which linking word means thinking about all the information that has been presented, that is overall. Alright, so we're going to listen to the end of the recording, and there'll be some mistakes in the text that you will need to find.
In terms of education, literacy rates have soared in the last 100 years. These days, more than 80% of the world's adult population can read and write, compared to only about 30% in 1920. Students in many countries have more choices than ever before about what to study and how to do it. Contrary to popular belief, statistics show that the number of hours we spend working has fallen steadily over the last century. In the past, many people spent 12 to 16 hours a day at work. Technology has also made a major contribution to the amount of free time we have, even though it may not always feel like it.
Alright, so the mistakes were the percentages, the number of years, and the number of hours a day. And then which expressions in bold connect contrasting ideas, contrary, and then compared to, and which expression refers to the period in which we live would be these days. Alright, so Sue has made predictions about the future and present your own ideas. So, for example, Sue says education levels will continue to improve. So would you say that that is certain, probable? Is it possible? Is it likely, unlikely, or doubtful? And you want to do that for each of these. And again, if you'd like some feedback, you can put your answers in the comments. Now, make 5 statements about your own future. And here's some ideas, but you are free to choose your own. You can talk about education, climate change, changes in technology, healthcare, job and career, the environment, family, friends, politics, or something else. And then, make some statements similar to the ones that Sue did about your own life. And be sure to use these adjectives and modals of probability. And then in the comments, you can share when you think about your future, which issues do you think about the most? And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, participate in the comments, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.